6 days, 7 days a week. So that the sports filled a lot, which was great. Filled a lot of what the sales training didn't teach me, the sports did, and then they just kind of married each other. It was awesome.
This week on Merchants of Change, we've got Ryan Feely. Ryan played Division I football at Florida State before starting his sales journey. He is currently the Director of Sales at Seamless.AI, an industry-leading lead generation software for sales professionals. Here he is, Ryan Feely.
I'm JR Butler, co-founder and CEO of The Shift Group, and you're listening to Merchants of Change. This is a podcast about transferring the skills and behaviors we acquire as athletes and military veterans into becoming a professional salesperson. Each week, we'll introduce you to a top performer who will help us understand how they became professional merchants of change.
What's up, kid? Today on the show, we got Ryan Feely. Ryan, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
I'm pumped to talk with you, man. So a little bit of background on the show. Our audience is made up of a lot of folks that are playing sports and serving in the military that are considering a career in sales. We also get a lot of people that come by that are kind of early in their career, and we're starting to see more and more kind of experienced sellers and sales leaders that tune in as well. So we try to target for our guests. We try to target former athletes, former veterans that have found success in sales. And the way we like to flow is kind of start with your sports career, jump into your transition, and then kind of end it with some good nuggets that our audience can put to use either through the interview process, their first 6 to 18 months in the role, and even as they grow in their career. Sound like a good plan?
Absolutely.
I love it, man. I love it. So obviously you played for probably one of the most famous college football programs in the country, Florida State. And I always start with a really broad question by design. What, if I were to ask you what your favorite memories are of your football career, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Football career is in college? Or just
generally growing up, whatever. If I say, hey, what do you remember? What's your fondest memory of football? What's the first thing that pops into your head?
All right, so we got probably three things. I think my first fond memory is I didn't play football growing up. I played a lot of soccer, which is what every kicker does. It's the first question I get is, oh, did you play soccer? And I'm like, yes, I did play soccer. And my dad was a high school football coach. He was an All-American quarterback and kicker. And at halftime of one of his high school games, he just kind of held the ball at I think it was like a 35-yard kick. He was like, just kick this. And I kicked it and it went perfect. And he just kind of looked up at his one of his coaches, and they were like, "Oh my God!" And I was like, "Was that good?" And he was like, "That was good." And I was like, "Oh, that's kind of fun, And that's literally how my football career got started.
How old were you?
I was in 8th grade.
That's amazing, dude.
8th grade, yeah. So I tried out for the football team in middle school. The season had already started. I tried out the week later. And I was kicking 50-yard field goals at practice to help the team not run. I've never kicked a football before. My second favorite memory was when I was in college at Florida State. I was a preferred walk-on. So most kickers are preferred walk-ons. Not a lot of kickers get scholarships. You either get what's called gray-shirted or red-shirted, and you just walk on, or you'll get a scholarship if you're, one of the better kickers, depending on the school. And being surrounded at Florida State, defending national champions by every 5-star, 4-star, number one receiver, number one running back that you could think of, my personal goal was just to beat every single one of them in running and sprinting and everything. And during the spring, I was getting a lot of praise from a lot of coaches as being the kicker who was outrunning the top kids. And I would just kind of not say anything about it, but that was really fun. My favorite, and this is what I mentioned earlier, my favorite memory to date is Florida State Notre Dame at home, playing a very tight game. That year, 2014, we were almost losing every single game. And you ask any athlete, and you're running out of a Division I stadium, prime time 8 o'clock, and it's a ranked game, number 2 in the country versus like number 15, and you run out of the stadium and the lights and the cameras look exactly like they do in an actual like TV or movie. And I was running and I was looking up and I got so lost into the crowd that I almost ran into the cheerleaders on the field. And I was like, I'll never forget it. I mean, it's like you dream about it. It's just this incredible experience of being able to see tens of thousands of cameras going off and the war chants going. It was just incredible. So that's definitely a big, for sure.
That was at Florida State.
Yep.
Oh, night game, dude. That's incredible.
8 p.m. kickoff. Top 15 matchup. I think Notre Dame might have been like number 12. I don't remember. Very close. Won the game on a rubber out penalty of an offensive pass interference. Last play of the game, they beat us. Flag came out. Turned the ball back 15 yards. They threw the ball incomplete. We won the game.
Oh,
crazy,
dude! I just got literally as you were describing your run out. I got goosebumps, dude.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You don't get that. That's a football only feeling right there, man.
Yeah.
Like you don't get. Yeah. I played hockey in front of some big crowds. It's not the same, man. It is not the same.
Unbelievable.
That's so cool.
Unbelievable experience.
Looking back at your college career, how do you think your teammates would describe you, Ryan?
I go back to that story. I mean, I went from, so at my high school, I think I was the first ever kicker to be voted permanent captain. Now, kickers are usually, it's the kicker. It's like, oh, it's the kicker. Like, you guys play volleyball and golf at practice. Like, you guys don't actually practice. Do you actually lift weights? Do you actually run with the team? No, we don't do any of that, apparently. We don't, we just show up and kick balls. So I went from being permanent captain, one of the better, I was the head coach's right-hand man in high school, to making our first playoff in God knows how long, because my high school was not good. Shout out to Leon High School. It was pretty good this year. To going to the number 1 team in the country, being a freshman. So here's the totem pole. Freshman, kicker, walk-on. It was like, you are number 165 out of 164. Like, you are Mr. Irrelevant. And I was behind the number 1 kicker in college football history, Roberto Aguayo, the best there ever will be. Nobody will ever beat his stats. There was no way I was playing. I got no respect from anybody. And a part of that was just, I'm gonna outwork all of you. I will beat you in drills, even when they don't mean anything. I'm gonna beat you in every race. I'm gonna beat you in every drill. I'm gonna be the guy who almost blacks out from exhaustion. And if there was anything, it would be like, oh, it's that kicker. Like, I was running like a 4.3 in college, just for no reason, But I was that guy. I just wanted to outwork everybody because I was nobody. I was.
That's amazing. Is Leon High School, is that in Florida?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. So you were a home state kid. That's a freaking unbelievable experience, dude.
2 miles up the street from FSU, the school on the hill.
Oh, wow. That is unreal. And I'm sure like that chip on your shoulder has never gone away, because I'm the same way. I felt like I wasn't even the best hockey player in my household. My brother played the NHL in the Olympics.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, so that's tall shoes.
Yeah, so I can, and he's my younger brother, so I can totally relate to like that chip. Like, if he shot 400 pucks, I shot 500 pucks, like straight up.
Yep.
That's it. By the way, that's an unbelievable mindset and attitude foundation for the rest of your career, which I'm sure we'll get into. Now, I heard that you did a sales program at Florida State, and this is something that we're starting to see more and more across the country. But like when I was in school in the early 2000s, sales was like a 4-letter word, and unfortunately, I went to a liberal arts school, so it's still a little bit of a 4-letter word. But tell me a little bit about that sales program at Florida State, what that did for you.
Oh man, I owe my career to 3 things. That's AK Psi, which is a professional business fraternity at Florida State. The Florida State sales team. AK Psi got me into the Florida State sales team. I was doing an interview for pledging one of the brothers was on the sales team. I was a marketing major. Most people fall into sales, as you hear. You know, they kind of, I'm an economics major, I'm a finance major. 5 minutes into the conversation, she's like, "Why are you not in sales?" I was like, "I'm in marketing." She's like, "You're going to work in sales." Joined the sales team because of it. And the sales program, unbelievable. I mean, I tell people it's like going to welding school.
What
I
do you
went to
mean?
school for what I do.
Yeah.
Trade school, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
Because we had, his name was Willie Bolander. I think he's at Texas A&M right now, but he was the number one producer, as far as I remember, of marketing research material, and he was a professor at Florida State, and he released just this jaw-dropping bombshell study that compared sales team program students at universities compared to, I think it was like 10-year vets at
Companies.
EDP, Paycom, Paychecks,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And the graph of success rate, just in its speed of a new job for the sales kids, was just, I mean, it was a freaking half pipe on a skateboard park. And the other one was kind of a steady curve, but the rate at which the growth was insane. And I used Insightly in college. We had to do cold call door knocking exercises that were recorded. We were competing nationally, sales programs to compete to sell people packages. I mean, I sold the Gartner CIO package as a 21-year-old to the CEO of Layered Plastics. Like, that's crazy.
That is
You know.
crazy.
So
Crazy.
you go to these, and it's phenomenal. I mean, you learn everything from resume writing to how to shake someone's hand properly. You know, not the cold fish, like the handshake. How to do a tie, how to wear professional attire, what to do at dinner, how to go to an event, to how to sell, how to write an email, how to make a cold call, how to knock on somebody's door. So I went to the Gartner internship, and they were like, "We have to cold call. Can I send emails?" And I was like the guy in the conference room with my buddy Moshe. Shout out to Moshe if he's watching this. Ripping like 200 dials a day. And they were like, "Where did you learn this?" And I was like, "Oh, we were doing this at FSU. Like, this is just a part of the job, right?" And it was like the expectation was already built and set. So I came into sales and I was like, "Yeah, we did this already." It's
Oh my
phenomenal.
God.
I mean, if you're
That's
thinking about going to sales and you're in a high school or in college and you don't know what to major in, transfer to a university that has a sales program.
dude, I'll even take it a notch higher. I don't care. I don't care what you want to do. Unless you want to be a doctor, or like an accountant,
Take a sales.
go take sales. Like,
Yeah.
take it. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't understand how much of your life is going to be spent convincing, motivating, and persuading people to take action, then you don't know what your life is going to look like, right?
Yeah.
Is it so it sounds like it's tactical and technical, but is there also like like some of that mindset stuff of like understanding how people think and how to motivate people too as part of the program there?
Communications classes, psychology classes,
Wow.
took all of it. Now, that might not be required, recommended.
Right.
And a lot of students, that's the thing about Florida State does such a good job with the School of Business. I mean, it's nationally ranked across risk management, real estate, finance, accounting, all these different things. And the sales program is the best in the United States. It might not be anymore, but it was. I think they won the ICSE competition this year. So shout out to Chuck for making that happen. But all of it. And I mean, the coolest thing is like for me, I went and interned at Gartner. It's one of the best companies to work for in the world. And their training is unbelievable. And I got that from being on the sales team at Florida State. And in sales class, we had companies we had ADP coming in and telling us what ADP did. Qualtrics would come in, and then I would walk up and they'd be like, "Can you interview tomorrow?" I'm like, "My name's Ryan. Good to meet you." And I mean, that was a part of it. And that was we had grades and requirements to go to career fairs, shake as many hands, get their cards, and then write down facts about the business. I mean, it was drilled, in the best way possible. And I mean, I see people who get an MBA and then they go and they're an SDR. And then I see sales students who go straight into the field. And by the time that MBA person gets out, they're a VP of sales.
100%. 100%. Yeah. Like, I I kind of think like a BDR slash like junior AE role is the same. It's the same as getting an MBA, except you get paid for it.
Be an SDR at a startup company. You'll have the best MBA you'll ever get
Oh,
anywhere.
dude, you
Anywhere.
are that's a clip right there, man. I could not agree more. Um, was it as easy as that conversation in your fraternity um, your fraternity interview that like sold you on sales? Like you chose marketing.
Yeah.
Like what about sales said, yeah, I'm gonna go join this sales team and I'm gonna go
Yeah.
like study sales. Like what won your heart and mind over?
So, background, I changed my major I don't know how many times.
Yeah.
I started at communications because at freshman orientation, my mom was like, "You should go in the communications room." I was like, "Why?" And she was like, "Go in the communications room." So we went in the communications room, and I was like, "Communications could be fun because I talk a lot." She was like, "Go in the communications room." I'm a comm major, and then I was a history major because everybody loves World War II and World War One, and I was a military family. And then I
Yep.
was this, and then I was this, and then I was this, and I was like, marketing seemed, you get people interested. And then I'm in this conversation explaining this to her. Her name was Alyssa Espinoza. She's a top AE at Salesforce now. I'll never forget her for it. And she stopped me and she was like, "Why are you in marketing?" I was like, "I don't know. I don't know." She was like, "And this is what did it." She's a salesperson. She asked me a couple more questions. She did a good job at discovery. She dropped some crazy stat on me. It was like, "Do you know that 78% of marketing majors go into sales?" And I was like, "What?" She was like, "Yeah, you're going to end up in sales." I was like, "No, I won't." She was like, "You're going to end up in sales." And this is what I tell people now. My little brother's a senior at Florida State. He's majoring in finance and sales. Why? Because his big brother was like, "Stop being stubborn."
Yeah.
He's like, "I want to go be an SDR." I was like, "Why are you majoring in finance?" And I
Yeah.
told him this is what she told me. Why wouldn't you take the classes to get better at it now while you're here and you're already paying for it versus doing other stuff and then going to do it
Right.
anyways? And I was like, I can't argue with that. And I walked right into the advanced sales class, changed to that class that day, changed my major that day.
Amazing. Amazing.
You're already here. You're going to end up there. You can either do stuff to help you out there or you can't, and then you'll just have to do it later. And I was like, that was all it took. And that's the same thing I tell students now that are
Yep.
even considering it.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I like my whole thing on like a career in sales is like you don't have to do it forever, but if
Mm-hmm.
you don't learn it, like it's gonna limit what you get to do down the road, right? I
100%.
mean, I did sales for 16 years and we built a multi-million dollar company in, less than 2 years 100% because of my background. Like
Yep.
if I had been a marketing person or some, we wouldn't be where we are right now. It's like
Yeah.
it's the foundation of business, 100%.
Well, you sell yourself on everything every day. Like
Exactly.
I hit the snooze button on my alarm clock today to not go to the gym, and I sold myself on not going to the gym because I worked out the past 4 days, and I usually take Wednesday off. And I was like, sleep. Sold myself on that. I sold myself on eating breakfast and what to eat for breakfast. I sold myself
Yep.
on going to get Chipotle for lunch. I sold myself on what I was going to wear today. I sold myself to show up to this.
I love
You,
it.
I mean, you make sales focused decisions every single day. You
Yep.
can either study it and learn it and get good at it or not.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, listen, like it's kind of you can't really argue that the data doesn't lie in terms of like how it impacted you. Like I was looking at your run that you've been on since you got out of that Gartner internship and you joined Seamless in the what I would say is like still fairly the early days as an SDR, and you've just been on an absolute run since then. Can you talk about like how are you climbing through the ranks at Seamless the way you have been the last 5 years, Ryan?
Yeah. One, the good Lord above put me in the best position humanly possible. And without him, this conversation's irrelevant. I mean, I
Right
was
on.
put in the right position at the right time. I get asked all the time by a lot of people, how do I do what you did at Seamless? How do I get promoted? Because some people become an SDR and they're like, I want to be an AE in 3 months, and it's like, okay, everybody does. I did too, but slow down. So like, good Lord above put me in an opportunity where the core foundational things of playing sports apply to success. You got a poster that says nobody cares, work harder. Yeah, showing up, working really hard, putting in a lot of effort, outworking everybody else. I mean, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. The godfather of sales, Pat Palantino, God bless his soul, he was the director of sales at Florida State. He has this famous saying, I say it all the time: success happens when preparation meets opportunity. A lot of people twist that, but that's put that in bronze, put that in gold on your desk. I mean, I was at the right opportunity at the right time. I was the 8th employee. I was getting paid $25 a day, once a week via PayPal. I miss my PayPal Mondays. Those 1099 paycheck taxes were tough, but I got told,
$25 $25 a day.
25 a day and 25 a meeting. It was great.
Wow.
I was 21 years old. I was like, really? I was booking 10, 15 meetings a day. I was like, this is great money.
We call that, by the way, I call that early transition. I call it Bush Light to Bud Light. Like you feel
there
like
you go.
You feel like you're loaded right then and there.
It was the right opportunity, and I could come in and work really, really hard. They said, we'll start you off 20 hours a week because you're in college. I said, guys, I have one class. It's Monday and Wednesday from 4:30 to 5:30. I'm working full time. I was putting in 50 plus hours a week. I was calling people and booking appointments and getting paid $25 for each person that shows up. And really what it turned into, my story, I love my story at Seamless, but I was an SDR, and then I was the number one SDR because I was outworking everybody.
Right on.
And they said, we're thinking about hiring an SDR manager because we're growing really fast. Do you want to do that, or should we hire somebody? And I said, why would you hire somebody to train your sales team that doesn't work here and doesn't know Seamless and isn't your top person to train people to be the top person? And they were like, fair. So I was the first SDR manager. And then we hired SDRs. And then I was the best SDR manager because there was one. And then I had the opportunity to be an AE because somebody got let go because they were just not good for the company and a bad fit and not a good person. And again, I was in the right place at the right time, and I was the top guy.
Yep.
And because I was number one and my stats didn't lie, I said, make me the man today. I came in as an AE. It took me 2 months, and I was the number one AE at the company compared to a former CEO, former Grant Cardone seller, and then the VP of sales, who wasn't really selling, but number one AE. And then I was number one AE every single month. And then after that, same conversation. We're thinking about hiring AE managers. Would anybody want to do it? We're thinking about the top people. They made the top 2 or 3 people AE managers. I became the number one AE manager. And then they said, we're thinking about hiring directors. And I said, okay. And then I was the number one director. And then they said, we're thinking about hiring a senior director of revenue and making 2 of them. And it was number 1 and number 2. And that's the beautiful thing about working in a startup in sales is if you're in the right position at the right time, you work really hard, you show success, it's a meritocracy. People get promoted based off their performance. This is why sales is the best profession on the planet. This is why sports is so great. I knew walk-ons at Florida State. I know a walk-on who plays for the Tampa Bay Bucks right now. He worked out the hardest. He was the first in, last out, got a shot on the practice squad, made his way all up to starting. He's in the league, and some of those other guys aren't. It's the same thing with sales. You can work really hard, be in a really good position. You can make a killing doing it, which is why most people are in it.
Yeah.
And you can control your destiny.
100%. 100%. That's why I have this sign hanging up, because this is it. Like, it's up to you, man. Like, what do you want to do?
There are no cheat codes. Work harder.
No, exactly.
Especially early. Early on, work.
That's it. Repetitions. That's it. Repetitions. It's you said something that I think is discounted. One of the things that we see with athletes that is unique to us, and I think veterans too, because there's rankings in the military. There's a scoreboard, and you know exactly where you sit every single day, and that makes the normal person extremely uncomfortable. It makes people like you and I, it like gets us going. And I think like getting comfortable with that is a critical part of like the success of being a salesperson.
Yeah. I agree. Can
Yeah.
motivate you. It can kill you.
Yeah.
Sales anxiety is a very real thing.
Oh yeah.
If you're feeling anxious at work and you're a salesperson and you're watching this right now and you're feeling anxiety, you probably should be doing something that you're not doing.
Exactly. 100%. World needs plenty of accountants and teachers too. Um, So like the run is amazing and the success is amazing, but it's not all rainbows and butterflies. Like
Oh, no way.
let's talk a little bit, like especially that first, like, you know, 3 to 6 months where you went from basically a BDR, uh, and you started running a team. Like what were some of those like early challenges? Were there gaps? This is a good one. Were there gaps between what you had learned at Florida State, and it's different because you had all that kind of real life experience. But what were some of the things that like kind of hit you in the face when you first
Oh, yeah.
started?
I mean, I say this and I laugh every time I say it. I was trained on professionalism in college,
Yeah,
how to shake someone's hand, how to be polite, how to go about a business meeting. That doesn't exist. You cold call somebody and they tell you to screw off, in other words, and you're like, professionalism. Professionalism. Wow. That was the CEO, you know? So that was probably the biggest learning curve. And the cool thing is too, is like, not to be sidetracked, but I'm very laid back in my sales style. I believe that salespeople are problem solvers for a fee.
yeah,
That's how I've always looked at it. You have a problem, I have something that can solve it. Obviously, it costs something. One of my most successful sales reps is the most informal, not unprofessional, like rude, most informal person. His close rate's ridiculous because he's a
yeah,
person just having a conversation.
yeah.
So that was probably my biggest learning curve. My little brother just told me this too. He went through the Gartner intern. He was just Mr. JR. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name's Ryan Feely. Thank you for your time. And it's like that person on the other end of the phone is not, wow, Ryan, thanks for calling me today. Although you called me, it is not the right time. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
that was the biggest, just, oh, fat. I mean, that was fast, you know?
yeah,
So, but yeah, there's
yeah,
stuff, those sales programs don't teach everything. I mean, sports, to the topic of why we're here, filled a lot of the gaps because a lot of success in sales is the activity.
yeah,
You do the activity, you put in the work. Professional athletes, people, wow, must be nice to play professional football. All you do is play football. No, they're up at 4 a.m. every day, working out all day, stretching, doing rehab when they don't want to do, eating a certain way, stretching, working out 6 days, 7 days a week. So that the sports filled a lot, which was great. Filled a lot of the what the sales training didn't teach me. The sports did, and then they just kind of married each other. It was awesome.
Well, dude, here's a crazy thing that I think you're going to agree with me on. You look at like a guy like Tom Brady, who we I think we share. It sounds like you might be a Bucks fan, and I'm a Pats fan. But like you look like at a guy like that, he lived at the facility for however
Yeah,
for 19 years,
yeah,
right?
mm-hmm.
Um, this is a unique opportunity from a profession perspective where if you put in that type of work in sales, guess what?
Oh, yeah.
You might not make as much money as Tom Brady, but you are going to get paid the
Oh,
same
yeah,
way a professional athlete gets paid.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. It is the most financially obligating opportunity. There are plenty of salespeople who work at companies where it's not. I know salespeople whose base pay is under 100K and their OTE is 120, and they work
Yeah.
80 hours a week. But I also know companies who you don't have a base pay, and top reps make millions of dollars a year because they put in the work and they do the
Yep.
extra stuff. So, yeah, I mean, you put in the work and the expertise in the craft. Yeah, if you're in the right opportunity in the right place. I mean, sales, especially where it's going with tech and software, is the investment banking of 10, however many years ago. It is
Yeah.
because
It
of
really
hard
is.
work and work
Yeah.
ethic.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't need to your dad doesn't need to be at the same country club as the boss anymore. Like that shit doesn't matter anymore, you
Yeah,
know?
spot on. Yeah.
Which to your point, that's what a meritocracy is all about.
Mhm.
Um, that first choice, dude, is so important, and I want to dig into that a little bit. But I want to start. you got an FSU senior from the football team that calls you and he's like, listen, Ryan, I saw what you've done and I'm thinking about sales. So similar to that fraternity interview you had on the discovery side, what questions are you asking that kid to make sure that this is the right path for him to go down or her to go down?
Well, the first question is why.
Yep.
That's what I told
Always.
us. Why? That's my first question of everything. I'm a huge discovery is everything.
Everything.
Discovery is the most important part of sales. If you don't have discovery, there is no sale. That's just all there is to it.
Full
I
stop.
preach discovery through and through. It's seamless. It's the reason I've been so successful. And sometimes the best question is just why. It's like the meme of the preacher. Why is well, why one, why'd you call me? Two, why are you having these thoughts? What are you thinking about? What I've learned is you ask people that enough times, they tell you what they just wanted to hear. They just wanted to say it to somebody and then them go, yeah, you're probably right. So why do you want to go into sales? She asked me that as well. Well, if you would consider it, why would you go into sales? I was, well, I'm very competitive. I work very hard. I can put in my, she's like, all of these things are sales. And then
Yeah.
it's just at the end, she does the recap and she's like, so you want this, 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 this. And I'm just like, geez, I guess I got to go into sales. So I would start there. Why? Why are you having these thoughts? Why are you not confident in what you're doing now? What is your ultimate goal and what do you want to do? Sometimes it can be the simple, well, I don't want to work at a desk. Buddy, you're going to work at a desk. I want to work outside. Okay, well, business probably isn't for you,
Yeah.
But why? What's the root cause? And then from there, what's important to you? Why do you want to go into sales? I hate when people say, well, you're money motivated. That's a bad thing. No, it's a great thing. Some of the best salespeople on the planet are strictly money motivated. Some people in sales who are the best salespeople I've ever met couldn't care less because they know it's going to be there if they put in the work. So that would be where I would start. It's just why? Why are
Yeah.
you thinking that? What are you thinking about? And then just kind of go from there based off what they say.
So I had a I had a sales manager early in my career. You're gonna love this, Ryan. And I was selling. I started my career in the IT infrastructure space, so selling like storage, servers, virtualization,
Mm-hmm.
networking. And he taught me when I would go on site. That was like back in the day. Like you'd go on site for most meetings, and I would have a notebook for my meetings, and he would tell me write why on the first five lines, write why 5 times, and then as you're having the conversation and they start talking about something, ask them why. Obviously, in a different. You don't just say why. You ask it in a different way each time on that topic until you get to the fifth why. Jr. You haven't actually uncovered the problem that they're facing,
Sure.
or the thing that they're trying to solve. So I would literally be sitting in my notebook and like literally having a conversation and like literally making sure I dug in deep enough. And to your point, that's selling. It's not pitching products. It's not high pressure tactics. It's not lying to people. It's understanding where are they today? Where do they want to get to? And why can't they get there without you?
That's it.
And if you can figure out that problem, then you're going to get a deal. And sometimes, actually probably more times than not, you're going to realize like, oh no, like we're not the right solution. And that's okay too, by the way. You just did your job as a salesperson.
You did your job.
Yeah.
Gap selling 101.
Yeah,
Yep, I
exactly.
agree. I agree.
Exactly. Now here's the big question, because I think we're both on the same page that the place you do all these things in matters, right?
Yes.
I would argue like early on, probably the leader that you get under is super important if you don't come from a background like you. But like outside of that, what are you telling that kid from Florida State? Like, here's what you should look for in your first company, and you can talk about the leadership side too if you want.
Well, one, your spot. I mean, the two things, and I remember I was one of the few guys in college where I don't know why nobody. I don't think anybody ever told me, but I was like, interviews should be both ways. Like, no, and I was like, yes, I'm going to interview the company as well. Now everybody on LinkedIn says that, which I think is funny, and they're like, it's a two-way street, and I'm like, it's always been a two-way street. Was this something that people didn't know? I'm interviewing you just as much as you're interviewing me, by the way, when it comes to getting a job. Side topic, but I mean, to your point, the training, in my opinion, is the most important thing. Like, I want to know what that looks like. I want to know what the training program looks like. I want to know what the ramp period looks like. I want to know all of it. All of it. When I was interning at Gardner, I knew exactly how long the training program was. I knew the base pay of the training program. I knew my base pay after the training program. I knew the conversion rate. I knew what am I learning? How much am I learning? How much all of it. What does that look like? Because I think that's more important than anything else these days, because a lot of people unfortunately go to companies and there's no training. They go, here's a Google Doc of videos. Go shadow people for a week, and then you're live. By the way, take this certification to tell us that you know what HubSpot does.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's what HubSpot does. That's just the first company that popped into my head. But
Yeah.
it could be because we live in a virtual world. So it's very different now from a training perspective. But a lot of people agree. You said it, and it's just as important as anything else. But the first person that you go under and learn from is more impactful and more important than probably anything else. Because if the training's not there, but you have a manager who is going to invest in you and is really good at it, that makes up for a lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
First leader over the first job, for sure.
Totally.
First manager over the first job, by far.
Yeah. Yeah. And a couple things that I will note to the audience that you did not mention. You didn't talk about, like, we get kids wrapped around the axle on like a 5K difference in base salary. And I'm like, do not, please do not make your decision based off of that.
No.
That is not a good play. And then to your point about training, it's like, you're not going to go put a kid at linebacker without doing some Oklahoma drills first.
You
right?
know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like you gotta get some like live action training.
Yep.
And you can't just put a kid in a video room and then be like, all right, like we're playing Notre Dame on Friday night. Good luck.
Suit up.
You know what I mean?
Yep. I agree. Yeah.
And then this is actually the first time this topic's come up, but I love that you talked about how well you knew the ramp time, the conversion rates, the how long it was going to take. Like, this is the equivalent. Like, I tried to pull this analogy together quickly in my head, and hopefully it comes out right. But it's like when you get on the field, you know the rules. Like, like I got to go 10 yards to get a first down and stay and keep the offense on the field. You need to understand the guardrails that you're in and what's going to be really good and what's going to be really bad. If you're not thinking about that, you don't have that on your wall or whatever, then what are you doing, right? You're just kind of going through the motions. So, like, I actually love that little nugget that you dropped, like, in there on the side.
I think it's very, again, for me, this is a two-way street when it comes to an interview. So I don't have any plans of leaving Seamless, but if I'm interviewing with companies, and this is two parts, I'm asking a lot of those questions. I'm going to get to the end and they go, do you have any questions? And I go, oh yeah, I got a sheet. You want me to email them to you, or do you want me to say them now? Like, I'm not asking what's the OTE, because that's a lie. OTE is a scam. I want to know what the average person makes. I want to know what the quota attainment is for the team. I want to know if it's low, why is it low? In your words. And then I want to know what you're doing to fix it.
Yep.
Because if they go, well, and then I get an email that goes, yeah, you were disqualified, that's a great thing that just happened. Because you want to know, well, our quota is 33%. Well, why? Well, people just need to sell better. Okay. I mean, do you guys have a training program? No.
Yeah.
Are you thinking? No. So I'm going to ask all these questions, but at the end of the day, to the point you're saying, if you're in an interview, you should know every single morsel of what your job's going to be, your daily responsibilities, your jobs, your quotas, your expectations. What happens when you exceed expectations? What does that look like? From a kickback, from a commission, everything out, like, because I could tell you right now, the responsibility of every single one of our account executives, what my responsibilities are. To a new person who comes in, I could explain it in less than 5 minutes, and you know, this is our interview process at Seamless. We tell AEs exactly what they're going to do for 8 hours a day, literally to the T. And then we go, does that excite you, or does that scare you? So, well, that scares you. Some people go, I love that.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah.
So yeah, you should know all of it. It's important.
Yeah, and the example you used about like getting broken up by a company because you made them uncomfortable about why they only have 33% quota. The reason they only have 33% quota attainment is because they've hired reps that don't ask about that. That was so
We're in
good.
sales, my man. It's the best discovery. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've ever heard this. The best discovery you'll ever get is in the doctor's office.
Yes.
From
Diagnose,
people who
baby.
are in mad debt, experts on everything, and they guess for a living. It's pretty bad. But they don't just go, well, I have this degree. Your tummy hurts based off that, this, and this. I think you have this. They ask 35 questions and then they ask questions based off of what you said and then they try and figure it out. That's the same thing we do.
100%. That discovery is diagnosis, dude. That's exactly
Ooh, I
right.
like that.
Yeah,
I
you
like
can steal it. I just want credit the first two times.
that.
You've done a really good job, Ryan. Like we usually ask like why do you love sales? I think that's come across like really well here. There's one note that I saw about like accountability and extreme ownership, and
So important.
normally a non athlete, a non veteran wouldn't put that in a bucket of like why they love it. So talk to me a little bit about like why you actually like
Oh,
that
yeah.
part of
I
sales.
mean, extreme ownership is essential. I talked about sales anxiety, but I had, we just got done with 2023. I have my monthly one-on-ones with all of my teammates under my organization, my sales org, because I'm a director. And I told the guy I was doing an interview, I was doing a breakdown with the guy, and I said, the best and the worst part about sales. If I'm I don't know, an accountant, I'm doing 8 hours a day. That's it. I showed up, did work, I left. In sales, that's not the case. We have a number that's this. You have to hit that. If you don't hit that, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
It's the best profession in the world because you have to have extreme ownership. I myself, coming from the background I do, my dad was a head football coach, and my mom was from a Navy family. So it was
Wow.
military and football coming together, and God bless both of them, and thank God for their discipline strategy because it worked. And I have this sense of extreme ownership because at the end of the day, like it's on me.
Yep.
It just is,
Yep.
and that's sales. If I
Yep.
don't hit my number, the number one thing we look for is somebody goes, "It's the leads," and you go, "Ha, you don't have extreme ownership." Because you
100%.
don't. If you have bad
Yep.
leads, then go get them yourself.
Yep. Yep.
You
And,
have to
and
have extreme ownership. You have
you
to.
have to. You have to. You have to. And by the way, to your point, that starts with the interview process because like the noise now on LinkedIn is like the executives made bad decisions. We don't have product market fit, and it's like, well, dude, you went through an interview process. You signed an employment agreement. Whose fault is it that you're at a company that doesn't have product market fit other than yourself? Nobody.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know?
Now, I think it's important because it can be hard. Sometimes people go into things because they have to get a job, and that's
Totally.
fine. You can make the most of it. There are places that are really not good. They don't have good product market fit. You couldn't sell. I had a lady reach out to me probably about a year ago now. I remember. I don't know why, but I asked her why she was leaving, and she said we can't compete with our competitors, and I'm sick of it. I was like, oh, that's pretty. Wow. Okay. Not like I don't have enough PTO days. She was like, we can't compete with our competitors anymore. That
Yep.
I can't hear you're such a good salesperson, but if we had to pick the salesperson, we pick you. But
Yeah.
and I mean, there are people, but like when you're at the right place with product market fit, you work hard, you're competitive. A lot of that does come from sports. You can have endless amounts of success in sales. It's the reason I'm in it. It's the best thing. You pair that with
Totally.
extreme ownership, and you can do whatever you want in this profession.
100%. 100%. By the way, we share that in common. My father is a Hall of Fame high school hockey coach here in Massachusetts, and I think like
Hey,
a lot of what's in your bones is in my bones because I distinctly remember being 11 years old. I got cut from a select hockey team absolutely, I was devastated, dude. I came home, I was crying. My dad came home. I expected him to like, you know, mother F the coach, mother F the, hey, he didn't give you a chance. He looked at me and he's like, how many pucks did you shoot this summer, JR?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I was playing baseball and I was doing this. And he's like, no, you didn't shoot enough pucks. You didn't skate enough. You didn't work hard enough. You didn't deserve to make the team. That's why you didn't make the team. If you want to make the team next year, work harder this year. And I was like, boom. And I have
You got a good
never
dad.
yeah, same as you, right?
My dad literally, this is another one of my favorite memories. I started football in 8th grade. Most people play football in Pop Warner. They're like, what Pop Warner League? And I was like, I just started 6 months ago. And freshman workouts, 6 a.m. takes 2 weeks. And I'm going in. My dad was the athletic director at Leon. Climbed his way, head coach, golf coach, athletic director. And I walked in one day and I was like, I quit. I'm never going again. And he was on his desk and he just did, like, eyes just boom. And my dad was also a Hall of Fame coach. His dad and my dad, they're one of a couple father son duos, FHSAA Hall of Fame. And he's heard that 1,000 times. I quit. He goes, why? And I go, I'm not doing these 6 a.m. work. This shit sucks. And he just went and walked over to the door and slammed the door and said, sit down. And yeah, I didn't quit.
You're about to
And
learn.
it
You're
was,
about to
it
learn,
was,
son.
it was the same message.
Yeah.
Why do you hate it? I'm out of shape. Get in shape. I can't wake up that early. Get used to it.
Yeah.
Lift more. I'm not strong. Lift more weights.
Right.
And it was just that mess. It's the message of like, again, it's the ownership. It's like, if you can't squat 45 pounds and you're self-conscious because everybody else can and they've got 45s on each side and you're barely struggling with the bar, why don't you work out more?
Right.
Well, it's,
yeah.
And it was so, oh, okay. Maybe I don't want to quit.
We need more of that, my friend. Nowadays, we need more of that. The gentle parenting is a little scary.
It's cool that we share that in common. That is
yeah,
cool.
it's very cool. All right, well, dude, you've given us a lot of time. You're super busy. This is our final question.
Okay.
We ask every guest this. I always talk about, people ask me, why do you focus on athletes and veterans? And I explain, I don't have to explain to an athlete or a veteran what it means to get dialed in. And as a sales leader, as a salesperson, when I talked about the people I worked with, the people that worked for me, and I was talking about a high performer, that's the language I would use. I say, oh, she's dialed in or he's dialed in. What does that mean to you as a sales professional?
I mean, I remember getting asked this question earlier, and I mean, dialed in is just, it's the word, like you.
It's perfect.
Wake up, eat the frog, do the worst thing. But you have to be, to do what we do, you have to be dialed in. One of the biggest things that I preach to my teammates, which I'm super thankful for, that I kind of like picked up on my own, is I work at a company that's a transactional sale. It's quick. I meet with a lot of people a day. I used to meet with 8 to 10. I used to hold 10 demos a day,
Wow.
15 minutes in between. 8 to 10 demos a day. Hour for lunch, hour for pipeline, 4 demos before lunch, 4 to 5 to 6 demos after lunch. And this is meeting, introduction, rapport, discovery, second discovery, third discovery, recap, product demonstration, close, next steps, pricing, sometimes getting contracts signed. And the one thing I've learned is, if you're not physically dialed in to exactly what's in front of you, you can't survive. I have the cleanest pipeline at the company. I don't understand the memes about update your CRM. What are you talking about? Why is your CRM not up to date? Well, because the company, no, I need that to be better at my Salesforce is clean. Why? Because it's my notes and what I do.
Yeah.
So when I'm on this, nothing else exists until this is done. And then once this is done, I look at my calendar and I go, oh shit, I have a demo in 15 minutes. Now I'm dialed into what? Prepping for that demo. When I did the first one, it was earlier in the day, and I had no idea what was coming afterwards, because you have to be just one task at a time, You give 100% effort to that task. When you do that task to its fullest potential, then you can move on to the next thing. The best thing my dad ever told me, and I tell this to people all the time, is when you take care of the little things, the big things always take care of themselves. If I wanted to be a Division I football kicker, I had to make my extra points. Because if I make all my extra points, I'll make my field goals.
Yeah.
You want to be a great basketball player, you need to practice free throws. That's boring. No, it's not. Make your free throws. Be the best free throw shooter in the country.
Yeah.
You'll get an offer.
Yeah.
So you have to be locked in to what's in front of you to be successful. And the alternative, and the best thing I learned from sports and being a kicker, is you have to have short-term memory, because if I'm locked into this and it doesn't go well, I have another opportunity. I'm moving on and I'm on to the next one. And if I do that consistently, the activity and the success picks up, and then it catches up to you. And that's just when you start going like this fast.
Unbelievable, man. This is, I don't throw this out a lot. This is #required listening. I might just take this whole recording and put it into our training program. Thank you so much, Ryan. I love it, buddy. You're awesome. And this was an awesome conversation. Thanks for joining us, dude.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
This wraps up this episode of Merchants of Change. If you enjoyed this episode, the most meaningful way to say thanks is to submit a review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're interested in working with us, please come find us at www.shiftgroup.io.